What's up? Brian Tong here, and Apple's rumored foldable iPhone is going into production. Will Apple end up acquiring an AI company to help them out? There's a new secret ringtone, and Apple built a custom camera with iPhone hardware for the F1 movie. All that and more is coming, but let's start with the foldable iPhone. Now, back in April, I did a video talking about how the foldable iPhone was getting really serious, and there were plenty of "I'll believe it when I see it" comments. Well, you might want to start believing. Like now, a recent report from Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo says Apple supplier Foxconn is expected to officially start production of Apple's first foldable phone late into the third quarter of this year. So we're talking late September. And feel free to make the iPhone 6 was the first foldable iPhone jokes because we haven't heard those before. You know, I'm going to let that last person finish typing that joke in the comments before we continue. You good now? Okay. Now, the report says Apple plans to launch the new foldable as part of its iPhone 18 lineup in the fall of 2026. Many of the component specifications still need to be finalized, but what is certain is that the foldable display itself will be produced by Samsung Display. Rumors say Apple's foldable will feature a display that's around 5.5 inches when closed and 7.8 inches when fully opened, and it will fold in half like a book and not vertically like the Galaxy flip phone. Now, it could be as thin as 4.5 millimeters when opened and 9 to 9.5 millimeters thick when closed. We've heard that Apple's taking the experience from the rumored super thin iPhone 17 Air that is expected to launch in September of this year and incorporating those learnings into their foldable phone. It's expected to use a liquid metal hinge design that will contribute to what will be likely one of its most important distinguishing reported features: almost no visible crease compared to other foldables. We'll have to see how that plays out, but it will reportedly have under-display cameras and Touch ID authentication on the side like the iPad mini instead of Face ID due to its thin design. Now, Kuo reports that he expects the price of the phone to be $2,000 to $2,500, and if that's the actual price, that's going to be a hard sell even if it's awesome. Like, are you willing to throw down that much for a foldable iPhone right now? If you are, put in the comments. And I know some of you are, let's say, thinking, how many out of 100 iPhone owners actually are going to buy one, right? Are we talking 10 out of 100 or even less? I know there's people out there. Kuo says that Samsung Display will produce 7 to 8 million foldable displays for this foldable iPhone in 2026, and Apple will be placing an order for around 15 to 20 million total that should last them 2 to 3 years, because it will likely sell at a slower rate because of its expected price point. Now, nothing is set in stone here and dates could change, but the foldable iPhone is expected to start going into production in September of this year. Now, I talked about it before in my WWDC videos, but at the Apple event, I even said it to the Apple iPad team themselves. This new windowing and multitasking features, they're screaming at me for a larger display iPad, or it's something that maybe they could fold into future Apple products. And I lingered on the word fold just to get their reaction, and they'll never say what they're working on, but there was a reaction. Just saying. Now, you can already see from a software standpoint that it makes sense with what they're doing with iPadOS being more like a Mac than ever while still prioritizing being a touch-first device, which Apple has always talked about. So while Samsung and Google already did it and are still working on perfecting a foldable themselves, all the foldable stuff that has been rumored around Apple for the past 5+ years is finally starting to happen in Cupertino. So better late than never, I guess. And we know that Apple will still bring its own polish and vision to this space, but they also didn't need to wait over 5 years to do it. Actually, by the time it releases, it'll be more like 6 to 7 years, and that's an eternity in the tech world. So we'll see when it happens, but all signs point to a foldable iPhone happening. Now, in other ways, Apple is hoping to close the gap and catch up. A new report from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman says Apple executives have had internal discussions about making a potential bid to acquire the startup Perplexity AI. We've talked about Apple potentially needing to make an AI acquisition to catch up. They need more AI talent and technology, and getting Perplexity AI would not only help overall, but could also help Apple develop their own AI-based search engine, and that would be crucial if they lose their long-standing $20 billion arrangement with Google to use them as their default search engine with Google's current antitrust trial happening. Now, no offer has been made, and discussions are at an early stage according to the report, but Perplexity's most recent funding round valued the company at $14 billion. Now, if we look back, Apple purchased Beats for $3 billion over a decade ago, so it would be their largest acquisition ever if they get Perplexity. And maybe Apple partners with Perplexity AI instead, but from the outside looking in, and after WWDC's 25's lack of significant progress with Siri and their other announcements, Apple needs to do more. All right, everybody, sticking with the iPhone, developers keep digging, and did you know that the iOS 26 beta is hiding a new ringtone? And it sounds like this. It's an alternate version of the existing reflection ringtone, which has been the default since the iPhone 10, and some of you probably haven't heard that one for years because most of us keep our phone on silent. Now, this new ringtone was discovered within the code and has remained hidden, but it could debut on maybe the iPhone 17 lineup, or could this be an exclusive ringtone for the rumored 17 Air? Really? Okay, well, either way, some of you may still never hear it because you keep your phone on silent, but it's there, hidden somewhere in iOS 26 for now. All right, here's a cool story for the fruit company, folks. We know that Apple really leaned heavily into their Apple original film F1 with Brad Pitt at the beginning of WWDC. We've seen a lot of marketing around it, but what they didn't say is that Apple actually developed a custom camera system that used parts of the iPhone camera system in current phones to capture high-speed footage from Formula One cars that is used in the F1 movie. Now, in every F1 race broadcast, there's an onboard camera that's mounted on the side behind the driver that is used for broadcast TV, but it's not made to capture video footage for a motion picture like F1. So that's where Apple's engineering team came in and partnered with director Joseph Kosinski and cinematographer Claudio Miranda. And you might recognize those names from their incredible Top Gun Maverick. But Apple created a custom camera system that looks like this with components from an iPhone that fit into the body of the F1's onboard camera pod and matches its design and durability. It has an iPhone camera sensor made by Sony, powered by an A-series Apple Silicon chip, running iOS and a special camera firmware. Now, I asked Apple if they have a special code name for this system, and they said they do, but they wouldn't tell me, even if I kept on guessing. And here, you can see it. It just mounts on the car, just like that, to give you that behind the driver perspective. Now, there are actually multiple cameras located on an F1 car that are used in a broadcast, but this spot here, this is the shot that Apple's F1 camera took shots for the movie. A custom iPad app was developed to let filmmakers adjust the camera settings and calibrate it before a car would hit the track. So I just wanted to make sure that the camera was working properly here, and it looks like it's working great. The footage captured also need to give the filmmakers as much creative flexibility as possible. So using special firmware, this enabled log recording on the camera, which was not available on the iPhone at the time to consumers. So scenes for the movie were shot obviously a while back. So this Apple F1 camera project also served as a proof of concept to them bringing log recording to the iPhone 15 Pro and bring the Academy Color Encoding System, or ACES, as part of the workflow, which also was not available on the iPhone before this. Now, if you even check the teaser trailer, you'll see it, but this shot right here, that quick moment, that is a shot from Apple's F1 camera that was used in the movie and others from that same angle. Now, this camera system was used for production at every race that F1 filmed throughout the 2023 and 2024 seasons. And I loved learning about this, and also know that this project actually contributed to the development of pro features that our iPhone can take advantage of today. And there's plenty of times where I've used footage in my videos and none of you have complained like, oh, that's an iPhone shot. No one says anything. They just want the content, and it looks incredible and really is cinematic quality if you push it that hard. And for me, I've got to imagine it had to be a fun break for Apple's team as well. Like, they're doing this cool race car camera. It's not a phone that might look like the phone from the year before, the phone that looked like the year before. So it's a cool story. And just one other cool thing that's related to the F1 release, you have to check out Apple's first haptic trailer for F1. Now, this is an awesome experience that uses the haptic engine from the iPhone to allow you to feel the movie trailer. You have the intensity of moments. I got to check it out. Small details like a seatbelt clicking, the larger ones like an engine revving, and a movie like this is the perfect way to showcase it. The haptics from the trailer even move on screen with the action. You will need an iPhone that supports iOS 18.4 or later, and you'll need to watch the trailer through the Apple TV app, but I'd love to hear what you think of it. This is the first of its kind, but Apple is more than onto something with this, let's call it a media experience, and I just hope we see it in more trailers or even in a full movie where it makes sense. All right, and one more story since we're still talking movies. 28 Years Later by Danny Boyle, that is out right now, and it continues the zombie-style pandemic movie franchise based in the United Kingdom. This is the first major blockbuster movie that was shot with an iPhone using the iPhone 15 Pro Max as the principal camera. There was other equipment like rigs and cages and lens attachments used, and Apple took part with any technical assistance that was needed, but this is an incredible feat, and some scenes used a bullet time rig that consisted of 20 iPhones at a time. So check out the movie. The franchise was started off with 28 Days Later in 2002. That was mostly shot in 480p with a Canon XL1 consumer-grade camera on mini DV tapes. I used to record on that stuff, and using the iPhone captured that same spirit with the technology available today, which has made huge leaps. So just two fun movie stories to throw in here to mix things up. All right, that is going to do it for this week's video. If you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get all my latest videos when they drop. And if you want more of that Apple goodness, you can check out my weekly Apple Bits audio podcast with the latest stories and special guests. Plus, you can support all my content with an ad-free version of the podcast, early access to my content, and exclusive content at patreon.com/BrianTong. So thanks so much for watching. Take care, y'all, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace and love.